My vision is that the next billion-dollar company unicorns are built out of affiliate marketers because they understand sales and marketing better than anybody else. So my call to you as an affiliate marketer is that you're called for more. You have a deep skill in a category that's the most important, in my opinion, of any organization.
Boom! We got industry legend Anthony Sandrea here. A small percentage of people actually exit their companies. You had the fortune to be able to do that. How did that feel, man?
You know, it's every business owner's dream, right? To be able to build something that has the ability to exit. And really the right answer is getting yourself out of the weeds to where you're working on the business, not in the business.
As I got out of the weeds, the company started to go the other way. So it's funny because I had to get back in the weeds to kind of fix things.
Take your hands off the keyboard does not mean take your eyes off the person with the hands on the keyboard.
What was your strategy to attract those people? Did you recruit them from other companies?
An A player wants to work for an A player. So you yourself have to consistently be elevating how you are as a leader.
You got into Medicare way before other lead generators did. You were in debt pretty early. What do you attribute your ability to be able to spot those up and coming verticals before other people?
In every space, there's three eyes. There's innovators. They're the first movers. They don't usually make very much money. There's then imitators. There's people that do it 1% better. They reap all the financial benefit. And then the last one is there's idiots. So when there's idiots in your space, you need to get out.
Boom! Guys, we're here. We're doing some new stuff. We're popping some cherries today. One of the LFG show. I'm in Fort Lauderdale right now. We're in a new studio doing our first podcast in studio. And we got industry legend Anthony Sandrea here. You're in Scottsdale, Anthony?
Scottsdale, brother, at home.
Scottsdale, Arizona. He's one of my favorite people in the industry and people that know you. I mean, I think they all say the same thing. Like, you're very, very humble, very genuine. You've helped a lot of people, helped me out tremendously. And I'm excited to have you on the show. And we don't normally do virtual shows. We like to do them face-to-face, but we've been trying to coordinate for so long. And I'm like, let's just do it, man, because I feel like you're doing some great stuff. You've done some great stuff. You're continuing to do great stuff. And I feel like it's a very value added for our audience to learn about what you're doing. So I'm so excited to have you on the show, man.
Thanks, brother. Thanks for having me. I love seeing you too, brother. I love the energy. Always.
Yeah, always good. Always good. It's all about that, right? So I guess let's start off here because this is the big thing. And I know you might be tired of talking about this, and maybe you're not. I mean, I think that, you know, as people in our industry, affiliate marketers, people in lead generation, business owners, whatever you want to say, a small percentage of people actually exit their companies, whether you're in lead generation or anything. I think it's less than 1%. It might be a tenth of 1%. And you had the fortune to be able to do that, right? So I want to talk about that because I feel like our industry, there's a lot of beautiful things about this. I was in Puerto Rico at a mastermind 2 months ago. I spoke and I asked a question before, right when I got up the stage. I'm like, how many of you guys love lead gen? Everyone raised their hands, right? And I said, how many of you guys hate lead gen? And they all raised their hands, right? It's one of these industries that is a love-hate, right? And it's because there's so many ups and downs. There's so many obstacles, and there's a lot of things you got to navigate. And I think that you were able to kind of climb the top and actually exit the company, and you had for a very significant figure. I mean, so you've talked about a $70 million, right? So, like, how did that feel, man? And I think that also I love that you did that because it gives hope to other people that, hey, you can do that too. 'Cause I think a lot of people don't think they can do it. I didn't think it was possible. Like, I was close. I had exit opportunity. You helped me out with that. And I was like, holy shit, this is really happening, man. So let's talk about all of that. I know that's a lot of information to unpack.
Dude, it's amazing. Yeah, thank you for that. And again, too, I'll say first off, you know, my mom growing up, despite being 5'9", I wanted to play in the NBA, and she's like, "You got to work really hard, and you also have to get very lucky and be very blessed." And that's exactly what happened to me too. I worked my tail off like so many people do, and I got super blessed. I got blessed with timing. God's blessings were just abundant on every single level of my life. So let me first give credit where it's due, which is there. Secondly, yeah, it's it's every business owner's dream, right? To be able to build something that has the ability to exit. And I guess a couple things would be good to talk about. One is how to get there. And really the right answer is getting yourself out of the weeds to where you're working on the business, not in the business, and having a great team that's able to run the day-to-day for the company. And that doesn't mean you go retire on a beach and hang out and go party all day long, but it means you're not the one launching the ads. You're not the one talking to the customers. You may still be, at least I was still heavy on the sales, attracting new customers and networking and trying to understand what the new industry or space should be in. I mean, you asked why I was able to exit. It's because I wasn't in the weeds. I was able to go to now everybody's in Medicare, but I was able to go to a Medicare conference and I was the only lead generation person there. I was taking notes and I'm learning this space is good. Well, wait a sec. 90% of policies used to be handshake deals. Now they're moving online. Okay, great. That's a great, great movement for us. But at the same time, that means that they're shopping more often. So what's the LTV going to look like to that customer eventually? So I was able to glean those insights to be able to say, okay, you know what, this might be the right time to go for an exit. And again, I wasn't totally foresightful on that, but that's a good example of being able to see what's coming over the next 12 months and be able to react to that, to be in the next space to be in, or to iterate the business properly, or in this case was to actually go through a formal transaction and sell the company. So it's getting yourself out of the day to day and the weeds of the business so you can work on the business. That's number one, first and foremost, by far.
It's a lot easier said than done. And there's been times, I'll tell you my personal, I'm going to be vulnerable here, right? So you and I've known you for over many, many years, and we spoke back in 2023. I had companies, they approached us to buy our company, and you were very gracious, man. You gave me your investment bankers to talk to, gave me tons of great advice, right? And what happened is funny because as I got out of the weeds, it's like the company started to go the other way. So and I had to, it's funny because I had to get back in the weeds to kind of fix things. And so it's a lot easier said than done. And I'll tell you, one of the issues we had is that when we hired people, like especially high level, I don't know if you call them COOs, CEOs, like high level C-level executives, it backfired for us, right? And I don't know why that happened. Maybe we didn't train properly. I don't know what that happened. So I'm kind of nervous to do that. I feel like I've got myself out of the weeds. Like I was able to go to Europe for 3.5 weeks, right? The business ran itself. I was grateful for that.
Yes.
But like it's a lot easier said than done, right? So I like what's your advice on that? Hearing my story and my struggle, and I feel like that's other people's struggles too.
And now listen, a couple things. One is, and I'm not suggesting you did this, but getting out of the weeds, take your hands off the keyboard does not mean take your eyes off the person with the hands on the keyboard, if that makes sense. And I think oftentimes, and I'm not suggesting you did, we say, okay, we hired the COO or the CEO. Cool, let me go look over here, right? And a lot of businesses, we're all marketers, so this might be funny for us, but like when I used to be in the agency, a law firm or a lawyer would hire me on a retainer, and they'd be like, "Cool, my marketing's all figured out." That's absolutely not the right thing to do. Is just say, "Cool, I put the hire in there. Let me go turn." So it's still keeping eyes on. Number two is I would say I had someone tell me years ago if I could hire somebody 70% as good as me, that was the goal. So it helped me relinquish control tremendously. And when I bring someone on, they watch me, then I watch them, then they monitor. So for the first week, they're just shadowing me as an example. Then the next week, I'm just shadowing them. And then after that, I'm now checking in. I might be checking in hourly to start, and then twice a day, and then daily, and then weekly, and then, eventually monthly or whatever it is. But my argument would be probably the wrong person on the bus at that time. Secondly, would be, if I were to, what I do now in businesses that I invest in or advise for is tie team members into equity to where they are owners within the company. And it doesn't need to be a significant percentage, and it can vest over a time period. So 5% ownership that vests over 5 years. So they get 1% per year. It's based on time merit or performance merits. So now that individual in the company treats it like it's their business because it is their business. And I remember being on a call with Mark Cuban years ago. We're in a small group setting, maybe 100 of us. And he said, "You're an idiot if you're not giving equity to your team members." And I didn't have the guts at that time to actually make a move on it. So now I'm preaching something I didn't even practice in my last business. But it is something very much I apply moving forward when I'm advising and investing in businesses. And I see these team members turn into entrepreneurs and owners of the company, and they really get to drive it forward. So I guess one would be making them owners of the business, number one, while there's still ability if they're not performing or if they're not there long enough, you're not giving away 90% of the company as an example. So that's the time vested or merit vested. And then secondly is when you're onboarding or training someone, I remember my first bookkeeper stole from me, right? Okay. My first assistant lied about how many hours she was working. Like the challenge is when we touch the stove and it's hot, oftentimes we don't want to go touch the stove again because we're afraid it's gonna be on. But if we want to get to a certain level, like if you want to have $100 million exit or grow the business to $20 million in EBITDA, we eventually have to dive back into that and try it again. And we have to say, what did we learn in that process? What could we have done better as entrepreneurs? And what did we learn went wrong? Did we make the wrong hire because of 1, 2, 3? Did I not onboard them correctly? Did I not watch them correctly? Did I not set expectations? Did I not tie them into the end result or align interests on this? Because otherwise we're stuck. So when we get in these levels, and I've been there too, is we get in these levels of just like, got it, I got burnt and now I'm scared to do it. The reality is we're damned if we do, damned if we don't at this point, because you're damned if you do because you're afraid it's going to happen again. Damned if you don't, because the business, you can't grow. The business can't grow. You can't grow as a leader unless you dive back in. So my unfortunate but exciting response is you have to go for it again. You have to try it again. You have to see what you learn from it, and you have to apply lessons to this second time. And it might take 2, 3, 4, 5 times before you get the right person. But when you do, when you have the right, and I've been blessed, I've had the right CFO in place. I've had the right head of media in place. I've had the right person managing the clients in place. I've had the right customer success coordinator who's calling back customers, getting testimonials, managing comments. It's very beautiful to see that well-oiled ship machine running with or without you there. And you want to be there so that you can keep guiding the direction. But really, at the end, my job is to point, hey, we're going to go in this direction or this direction. And it was to help a little bit on the media side, help a little bit on the customer management side, help a little bit on the sales side, but really like I was able to time the exit because I was able to go like this. I wasn't like this. I was able to go from debt settlement to credit repair and credit repair to Medicare. As you know, I won't call myself the first mover in either of those spaces, but certainly I remember when I was one of the only affiliates in debt, and then we were the largest affiliate in credit repair, and then we were one of the first movers, not the first mover, one of the first movers in Medicare as well too. Versus when competition, you know, kind of swoops in. So in order to get to that next level, you have to go for it again. You have to learn from your past, you know, what happened in the past and apply it moving forward. Otherwise, you'll never grow. You'll be right where you are and stagnant.
Yeah, I think Gary Vaynerchuk said something similar that, you know, when you hired, I think at business owners, we'll complain. We're like, oh, I have a friend. We have a mutual friend. One time he said to me, Dave, man, it's funny. The more successful he became, like the more money he made, the less patient he became, right? Because he had so many employees. He got over past 100, and I would see this guy, this very charismatic guy, and they're like, he'd be pissed off. I'm like, this guy's making a lot. Why the fuck's he pissed off all the time, right? I'd be so happy about him. And then like later on, when I became an entrepreneur, I was like, damn, I now I see what he was talking about, right? And I think what it comes down to is that you got to hope that you hire someone, they're not going to be you, right? 70, 80% you'll take that, right? But then I think the reason is because it's they don't own it, right? They don't have what's they're not vested. So if you do give them that, and you made me think, I know a couple, as you were saying that, a couple other friends of mine that had nice exits in home improvement in that vertical. They did the same thing. The one of my buddies, like, he just diluted himself. He gave people pieces, and then they did the work for him. And he would go on these road shows, which you probably did too, and meet with these heavy hitters, and then he was able to exit his company too. So as you said, that I always say success leaves clues, right? Boom. I mean, it's a lot easier said than done, I think. But you just dropped a lot of good knowledge there. I think we can all, including myself, learn from.
Thanks, David. I'll say what I do think I did very well in my last business. Now I'll preach what I practice. Was I painted the vision of where we're going and what we're actually doing here. When you're doing leads and clicks and freaking trying to get your payout up, and it's monotonous and it's very purposeless. When you make it, I had a guy that for like 10 hours a week would solicit testimonials. And who were they for? One, yeah, we'd use them for ads, but we would really use it for the team to see the impact they're making. And so I remember when we were in debt settlement, I wouldn't say we're in lead gen. I'd tell the team we're fixing the divorce rate in the country. When you start thinking that way and you start communicating that way, and it feels like foo-foo, and it feels maybe like for somebody listening might be like, okay, eye roll. I truly believe we were helping fix the divorce rate in the country. And when I had that conviction, my team had that conviction. When we had people sending in testimonials talking about how they got an extra $50 a month, which allowed them to go out to dinner the one time a month, holy shit, is that impactful? Versus I'm doing clicks and leads and this and this. So imagine showing up as a team member and having that much purpose in your day and your life. That's freaking an exciting community to be a part of. That's an exciting team to be a part of. That's an exciting leader to work for and company to help grow and be a part of. So when they're showing up for a job versus they're pushing a mission forward, by the way, you know, same thing goes for credit repair, same thing goes for Medicare, it could go for anything. I remember having a landscaper, I've told the story before, where he's like, Anthony, Okay, I got one for you. I got the most boring business on the planet. I cut grass for a living. And we dove in. What do you do? What do you do? What do you do? We finally got to, he gives dads back his Saturdays. He started putting a ticker, and he had, by the way, he had recruitment issues because people would go, if they got paid 50 cents more, they'd go work somewhere else. He had customer retention issues because people would come knock doors and say, hey, I'll cut your grass for $10 cheaper a month, and they'd switch. When he started communicating, I give you back time with your kids and my employees, you go tell them, hey, we give dads back their Saturday. He had a ticker in his office, how many hours he gives dads back his Saturdays. They'd go knock doors and say, hey, could you use more time with your kids? But the homeowner's like, what are you a missionary? What are you trying to preach here?
Yeah.
No, no, no. I cut grass, and my job's to give you back more time. What else are you spending time on landscaping that I can give you back more time on? That's where you attract the best customers that have customer brand loyalty. That's where you get the best talent to come on board, and that's where you have an organization, hello, that you are excited to get up for every single day. So if you want to know the real spirit, the real answer of our success, it's because we instilled that mission that we were getting up for every day. We weren't in lead gen and clicks and payout. And of course, those were all elements of it, but we were tracking towards and moving towards somewhere. It's a very fun environment. And then the last thing I'll say, A players love working for A players and being around other A players. The best way to get rid of an A player is have a B or a C player in your organization. So you have to be ruthless ripping someone out that is a C or B player, because an A player will not stand and stick around that. So the other reason why I believe we were successful is we were a very lean team of A players, and A players love running and playing. Just like I love basketball. If someone on my team's a dud, I don't like playing with them. I don't want to play. I don't want to show up for pickup when I've got duds on my team. When I've got 4 studs, some even better than me, holy cow, I want to practice harder. I want to show up ready to go, and I'm ready to play, dude. And it's the same thing for your organization. You have to ruthlessly rip out people that are not A players. You have to work, you said your buddy, same thing, work to go attract A players. And that's a fun environment to work in, a fun growth environment where you're around other A players. So A players plus the mission that and communicating that mission to yourself first off, so you're excited every day, 2 to your team, and 3 to your customers, is ultimately why I believe we were successful.
In terms of A players, how do you attract them or recruit them? Like we tried. We had people who Medana exited to other companies, were CEOs, and we brought them to our team, and it just didn't work, right? For whatever reason. And I'm not saying it could have been a lot of different reasons, and make me think a lot here. But what was your strategy to attract those people? Did you recruit them from other companies, and how do you make sure, like, kind of increase the probability, the chance that it would actually work?
You put a structure in place where they have ability to earn what they want to earn. Let's talk about the finances that everybody talks about as well too. So if on a new vertical, if you get a 5% profit share, whatever that is, it gives them ability to go earn that. 2, you talk about where we're headed in the future. So we're not just here for status quo. We're not just here to grow. Here's where we're actually going. Here's our roadmap. It's very methodical and thought out. Again, it's a forecast, so it's made up. So of course you're like, but what it does is it communicates the level of thinking you put into where the company's going. So even though a forecast is nothing but a made up where you're headed, by spending time putting together not only a financial forecast but a roadmap on where the business is going, it shows your intentionality to your team and to your team and shareholders as far as where you're headed. And then outside of that, like, an A player wants to work for an A player. So you yourself have to consistently be elevating how you are as a leader. You have to consistently educating yourself on podcasts, books, courses, coaching, whatever that is, because people want to work for somebody who is going to push them to grow. Sorry, an A player wants to work for somebody who's going to push them to grow. So you yourself as a leader have to grow. So communicating the vision of where the company's going, putting a structure in place where they have ability to hit their goals. 3, you need to elevate yourself as a leader so that they want to come work for you.
You mentioned how you got into Medicare way before other lead generators did, many years ago. Or you go to these conferences, there weren't other people there, and you took full advantage of that. You were in debt pretty early. You caught that wave. I think that's been one of your keys. And also, I'll say this. I don't know how long ago this was. I don't know if it was a year and a half or 2 years ago. Auto was not doing well. Auto was in the dumps. But you were telling people it's going to come back. It'll come back within, I don't know, was it 3-6 months? And sure enough, it came back strong. I know a lot of guys putting massive numbers in auto. Like, what do you attribute your ability to be able to spot those up and coming verticals before other people and get that first mover advantage?
First, I'll say in touching on first mover advantage, and this doesn't mean to be insulting or derogatory to anyone. It's actually Warren Buffett's statement. He says in every space there's three eyes. There's innovators. They're the first movers. They don't usually make very much money. They're the Napsters of the world, but they change an industry. It's great what they do, but they don't usually get capitalized. There's then imitators. There's people that do it 1% better, a little bit different. They reap all the financial benefit. And then the last one is there's idiots. And I don't mean that to be rude. That's Warren Buffett's quote. There's idiots. And he said, when there's idiots in your space, you need to get out. And that's where, in a nicer way said, when it's become oversaturated, that's where you start seeing people run fraudulent advertising and boom and boom and boom. And it's a race to the bottom. You're picking up pennies, busting your butt because you're in a space that's oversaturated, to put it nicer. So you consistently in every, whether it's lead gen or whether you have a flooring company or whatever it is, you consistently have to be innovating because the money is made before I remember it used to be cool to be a drop shipper. Now it's cool to be a lead generator, right? And it's like, and I remember sitting back like 5, 6 years ago and being like, no, sorry, this may be longer than that. 7 or 8 years ago, I'm like, how is pay per call not like a blown up space? Like this feels so much more obvious than customer, than returns and the fulfillment and all. I'm literally moving air. I'm moving calls, and of course now it's oversaturated in my humble opinion. So to answer your question, how you stay ahead of it, um, that was quite literally. If you ask me, my role. My role was to go network. It's who you know, not what you know, and educate myself. So I would go to for instance, like in this case, you asked auto insurance. Like, how did I know that? I would go to auto insurance conferences that lead generators aren't going to. I would reach out to people at LinkedIn that work at all the auto insurance companies, and I would learn about the product, the lifestyle, the market cycle, the overall lifetime value, how it works, how the agent commissions work. I would intimately learn a space. I would do it for multiple spaces. I did it in a reverse mortgage, which didn't end up being a success. I would do it. I'm trying to, I did a mortgage in general and it wasn't a success. And I could probably name, 4 or 5 other spaces that I went very deep in, and we tried and just didn't, I never really ran traffic in ACA. I was looking at ACA probably 6 years ago, 7 years ago. But I went really deep in there, and it's because I come back to that, like, on the business, not in the business. We only have so many hours in the day. And if my job is to literally look out for the icebergs and direct the ship to make sure it's not in the way, and by the way, recruit talent to get onto the ship, that's the most important role in the company. It's not running ads. It's not talking to the customer. It's that. And ultimately, again, you need both of those in order to be able to do that. I'm not saying go leave those to the side and, blindly go off and start networking, but it was, putting myself in the right educational spaces, in multiple spaces, and it was creating the space and time to be able to go explore. I used to have a saying at my company, and I'd say it to my C-level, guys, and I'd say, and any of them can validate this. I've been saying it for over a decade. I'd said, if we can get it to where we're staring at a wall for 3 hours a day, we're doing something good. Now that's that esoteric thing that we're chasing that we'll never actually hit. But if we can try and work ourselves out of a job at every single level by automations, AI, by people, where we can spend more time as thinkers, that's where we're going to win. And I don't just want myself to spend time thinking. I want my high level team members to be spending time thinking as well too. So we can all ultimately spot where the next place is. So it's getting the day-to-day monotonous tasks off your plate and being able to be in a space to be able to go network, to be able to go learn as far as what's coming next. And we becoming an expert at, you and I both are Tony Robbins guys, pattern recognition. So recognizing cycles in different spaces and recognizing a pattern of why something might be a lull today versus here. So auto insurance, for instance, I learned I'll cut you hundreds of hours worth of learning. And of course, probably cat's out of the bag now. If we talked a year ago, you'd be like, that's very interesting. And maybe we did. I learned that the reason it was in such a suppressed market is because there are rate increases that need to be approved at government levels. And what happened during COVID is there were not a lot of claims because people weren't driving. So these auto insurance companies were just printing cash, making hand over fist profit. So now when it came time, inflation came and car parts were more expensive. All these auto insurance companies now have to pay out on these claims, and they're paying on claims with the bumpers more expensive than it was 2 years ago. So they're going to the legislation going, hey, I need to be able to raise my prices because it's a federally mandated product. It's federally mandated. Might be federally, sorry. It's government mandated. You have to have auto insurance or it's illegal. So when they went back, the legislation said, no, 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 you were printing cash during COVID. Use some of that money. I'm not going to let you approve things. So what is the actual fundamental issue there? Is there an issue with auto insurance, or is it a timing issue to where eventually that lever will get released? And when that gets released, these companies will go then be able to start. So it was a pent up demand that was going to be coming, and being able to spot that trend through learning is where I didn't know if it was going to be next week, next month, next year, but I knew that was going to explode, because eventually they would allow the auto insurance companies to raise their prices. When they did, consumers would go search and go compare quotes, because their insurance was getting raised, and that's where a lead generator, has an opportunity to go make money. But if you wait until your barber is talking about it, it's too late. It's too late at that point. The money's already been made. And I'd have friends that didn't even know anything about lead gen. I'm going to get in this ACA thing. It's too late. There's no money to be made there unless you want to start running fraudulent traffic. So and a race to the bottom. So anyway, the short answer is having the space to go learn those, study trends, recognize patterns, and not be head down 10 hours a day in ad accounts, or be handling a client call at 5 p.m. on a Saturday because their CPAs jumped $10. That's the true answer.
You got to have your head down to get to this level, but it's about levels, right? Then you have to go to the next level, and you have to hire properly, and you have to do this and do that. There's so many aspects of that, and I want to touch upon a little bit further down the road here on this interview. But before we do that, there was something you said. I don't know if this was at Geek Out in Beverly Hills. You had spoken there, and you said something that I thought was very interesting, something unique that no one ever talked about. You talked about, and this relates to spotting trends, that you would go to like earnings calls for companies. I mean, a lot of these companies we work with, or we sell to, or they're publicly traded, right? And they have earnings call. They have to report their earnings, and you would use that to unearth information. I think that people also in our industry, not any industry, they don't, there's information out there that you have to find out where to get that information. That information is what can turn to the next big idea, right? Or to help you collapse time frame. So can you talk more about that? Because I don't think anyone is actually doing, I took your advice. I remember listening, I don't know, it was Fluence. I listened to one of those calls afterwards, and I wish I did more of that, because I could have made a killing, especially with solar, the way it was going. But the bottom line is that I thought that's something no one ever talked about. Like, wow, that is next level information that you're giving out there. So can you talk about more about that and how you use that?
I would say, so first off, the tactic, of course, is listening to publicly traded companies earnings calls, because they get to talk about exactly, because they're publicly traded, they have to share their financials, where they're making money, and their roadmap to go make more money. Hello, awesome. For a customer to tell me where they were making money and where they're going to go make more money, gold, right? Another way to do that, if they're not publicly traded, again, is go on LinkedIn, message someone that works at the company, not in the marketing department, lead generation department, and say, hey, I just want to learn more about the company. Can I pay you for some coaching? Can I pay you $50 an hour, $100 an hour for some coaching? Hey, what are some of the initiatives you guys focus on? This. That's where you get the intel to be able to and create products and services and solutions that ultimately solve the problems that the company's foreseeing they're going to have in the future, whether that's a new lead gen space, or whether that's how they're acquiring customers, or whatever that is. But so that's the tactic. The strategy is changing your identity from I'm a run and gun affiliate, printing cash, going to party on a yacht, to I'm a business person. I'm a business owner, and I'm going to professionalize my life. And I'm going to professionalize how I look at my company. So I'm going to spend less time studying how to get my CPMs down on Facebook, and I'm going to spend more time reading business books and how to scale a business. And that's ultimately, and I'm going to spend time with business owners that own businesses in other spaces, versus going to an affiliate conference and going to drink my face off for 4 days. By the way, I'm not judging. I've been in those mental identities in my career. I'm just saying, you asked what the shift is. The shift was saying, I'm going to run a business, and I'm going to be a business owner, professional business. I'm not going to be a kid. I'm not going to be, I'm not going to identify as an affiliate. And that makes quick cash online, or an internet marketer. And I think when you change that identity with yourself, you start learning, one, the tremendous benefits we have with the internet, and the tremendous benefits we have as being an affiliate, it's incredible. I think it's an incredible space to be in. There's so many challenges other businesses face that we don't have to solve for. So one, it gives you a deep appreciation for the space we're in. Two, helps you understand some of those challenges that the businesses that we're selling leads to are facing. And it starts making you think holistically on the customer's journey or the business relationship you're having in partnership with the person buying your leads. It's not a transactional marketer and a transactional buyer. It's a partnership between you and the person you're selling leads to. And you start to have business conversations and communication that ultimately allow you to grow to the next level. So the tactic, yes, the strategy is to change your identity to be a business person and a business owner, not an affiliate, internet marketer, that going printing cash and blowing it.
Yeah, at the end of the day, we're all salespeople, right? Regardless of what your title is, you're selling something. Yeah, I think that we have to differentiate ourselves in some capacity. And I think I tell this all the time, and I train my team this: don't always hit up your client to sell them leads. You'll provide value, whether that's informational value. There might be a new policy going on, and if they're in a certain state that's going to affect them, they might not be aware of that policy. Give them that information. Hey, did you see this? If you know they're into freaking, I'm mentioning Coldplay, right? That the whole thing, they're like, hey, Coldplay has a concert there, and hey, don't get in trouble. But just keep them aware of what's going on. You're just not just a lead vendor that's transactional. You're providing value for them, and I think that when you immerse yourself and you get to really know the industry and know what's going on, you can provide that value. You can give them that information. And you're going to separate yourself from 99% of people out there, right? And I think that's what you were able to do successfully.
Totally. Totally agree.
Okay, and another thing, you mentioned Mark Cuban before, which I find fascinating, and I think I might know the answer to this. I think we're both a believer that proximity is power, right? How did you get the proximity to Mark Cuban?
Oh, it was through a business group. I think it was EO or YPO or one of these. So it was in a business group. So it was paying for access, for lack of a better word. So now I'm in a group called Tiger 21. That same thing. It's mostly people that have had a liquidity event that now it's how to manage their investment portfolios. And that's their new business today for most of these people as well too, including myself. It's a second business for me, which is the assets I've accumulated to be able to manage those to produce reap more crops, if you will, for lack of better words. But listen, you work your way up the chain, right? Like I started messaging people off LinkedIn for coffee. Anyone could be a good, like literally I was going to meet anyone who would have coffee with me. And you're like laughing. You're like, what? That's not that directional. No, you're right. So I started that. Then I would get more directional on who I wanted to meet with. Then I would join an EO accelerator group, which is businesses doing 0 to 250,000. Then I elevated to EO, which is $1 million plus business. Then YPO, $13 million. Now, Tiger 21's a $20 million liquid net worth plus, but you work your way up those rankings and you get that by talking to better and better and stronger people. So I'm a huge proponent in, paying for coaching at the end of the day, paying for coaching, whether that's going for courses or consultants or whatever that looks like. And in those examples I gave you, those are all peer-to-peer coaching. But Tony Robbins' Platinum Partner Group was a group, it was six figures plus a year that I invested in to learn, and I invested in myself, and I paid for access. And then guess what? All the people in that group are also paying $100,000, which are probably some pretty good people to know.
Yeah.
Right. Anyway, I think you work your way up the rankings, but being able to invest in yourself and invest in your network and invest in your access is ultimately how you continue to get to know the right people that can cut the learning curves for you, for sure.
After you had a successful exit, right? It was high eight figures. And I think that the perception of people is that, hey, you do that, all of a sudden you're gonna, buy a few Ferraris or buy this thing or that thing. And I heard you on, I believe it was John Castle, a good friend of ours, on the Bulletproof Scaling, where you mentioned that you've done that in the past. You had I think your McLarens, and then these cars, and you're more comfortable. You like your Tesla, right? You like your I forgot the model you have, but it's not like a crazy model, but like you feel better driving that Tesla than you just this fancy car, because like you got to worry, right? There's more stress. Like this thing gets blown out, it might get stolen. Like there's so much crap that goes along with it, where it probably you're able to you can't focus on what you want to focus on, right? So I just find that amazing that you've chosen this to reinvest in yourself. I know you've given money to your alma mater, ASU, a good amount of money to them, and donated to them. So you've invested and continue to invest in yourself. You're not blowing it on material items. Can we talk about that in the
Yeah,
one?
and to your point, no judgment there because I bought nice cars for sure. When the exit happened, I went through a fasting period, just like you restrict eating for a day or a week or 3 days or however long you're gonna fast. I wanted to I thought that was a pretty I think fasting is a pretty spiritual exercise, right? And it takes discipline and self-growth. So I did the same with my finances. My wife and I cut our spending in half. I sold my nice car. I drive a $30,000, Model Y Tesla, which is blessed by anyone's demeanor. And that doesn't mean I don't, have nice things. I have a nice house and go on nice trips. But gosh, dude, I had a roommate for a decade when I was making millions of dollars in profit, and I was spending $1,000 in rent. And it was just like it's this idea of delayed gratification. And the idea of, for me, I'm not saying this is right for everybody, and it's not the sexiest conversation because I'm sure rightfully so. I get it. For a lot of people, it's like I want to have this liquidity event and go get these things. For me, I by going through that process and having that happen, both pre-sale and post-sale, was I realized when I buy a new pair of shoes, it's really exciting, and then the shoes kind of eventually just become another pair of shoes, and then I started looking at things for the value they create versus like kind of the short-lived emotions they create. So for me, having a home that my wife's happy in and we're going to raise kids in, and now my family gets to come over, and we have a pickleball court, and my brothers I get to see 3 or 4 times a week that I didn't before. I get to see my dad. We're going to do Christmases here and stuff. There's value there that before, I think on paper, you're like, I want to buy a mansion. Like, what's the reason I'm buying it? So I'm not saying I'm not, I don't have nice things. It's just the reason for purchasing it is different. And for me, when I would get in my, Lamborghini, I was afraid to scratch it, put miles on it. And I was like, this is stressful. It was like so funny to think like I personally, doesn't mean others won't. I didn't enjoy it as much as my car now. My wife freaking backed into a thing, and I was like, that's why we bought this car, baby. Like I was pumped about it. Like, so anyway, though, the real comment there is like, I went through a fast, I still have, excuse me, I've maintained it too, but, we went through a fasting exercise when it came to finances, when others would go the other way. And I just, what is the book? Psychology of Money. It's a great book.
Great book. And I read the Audible. I listened to Audible like 6, 7 months. He talked about that lifestyle creep, I think is what he calls it.
My gosh, well, who's richer, the guy that makes $100,000 a year and spends $30,000, or the guy that makes $5 million a year and spends $6 million?
100%.
And you laugh how many people aren't even tracking their own self finances, and when they do, they go, "Holy cow! I made 5, I spent 6, or I made 5, I spent 5. Oh, and I forgot my taxes."
Yeah.
Or whatever. I went right up to there. Gosh, I'd way rather be the guy making $100,000 and spending 30, and having no stress, not going through all the, you touched on all the heartache and toughness of the affiliate space, or in business in general, excuse me. So that's my truth. Doesn't mean it's everybody's, and that doesn't mean it deflates somebody who wants a car. It's just, I started analyzing the value and the sustainability of that value before making a purchase or doing something. So for me, cars don't give me the value, so I don't have that. A nice house where it becomes a gathering center for my, 3 younger brothers and kids on the way and parents and extended family. There's great value there. My wife's happiness, and so anyway, just a evaluation of value, I think, is exercise I went through.
I think it's very opposite of what, again, like most people think. And again, our industry is filled with, there's a lot of flash, right? And there's a lot of I don't know, it's a lot of sizzle, right, is what it comes down to. And it's easy to get caught up in it. You and I have been at parties in Vegas at these clubs, I don't know, the Omnias or whatever. You see bottles being popped, right? And you think that's what you have to do. I got sucked into that as well. We had a conversation about that like a year ago. How, like, you get to a point where you realize that you don't need that crap anymore, right? It's you build your brand, and you just gotta do what's best for you, best for your family, best for your company. And when you can reinvest that money to make more money, to help the company grow and pay your people more, right? That's really how you win. And I think that's what helped you win, why you're able to have the exit you had, the success you have. And then that's why I'm excited about, we'll talk about the future, with the present, what you're doing now. But I think that's why you're going to continue to have this crazy growth and success, because you have that mindset. Because at the end of the day, it all comes down to mindset. If you have the wrong mindset, it doesn't matter how much money you make, you're going to squander it.
Totally.
Yeah, love that. So before we go into what you're doing now, I want to talk one last time about this. So you're doing over 10 million EBITDA, right? Exit over 70 million. What did what did it feel like when you got when you got that check, right? That I've heard this from other people. There's a someone named Eric Spofford that was big in drug rehab. I don't know if you know him, but he owns his company for a big figure, and he had a really funny, interesting answer. An answer I didn't expect him, and I'll say it after I hear your answer. But what when that money hit, right, and it went through, like what did you think? Did you jump up and down? Were you like, what was your feeling? Let's walk through that.
The morning of, I journaled a lot, and I journaled the entire journey to get here. So, the morning that it's supposed to hit, um, and I did a lot of deep reflection and a ton of gratitude, and I just wrote it all out. And I wrote, really a letter to myself about the entire journey. Um, and then when it hit, I went on with my day. And I know that sounds funny, and maybe it's because I had already accumulated wealth from the income of the business, but I had already pre-decided that I was going to go through that fasting period that I mentioned. So I didn't want you and I both love this statement, growth equals happiness. I wanted to the number one thing I was most excited for was the access I knew I was gonna be able to get. I knew I was gonna be able to join a Tiger 21, or I knew I was gonna be able to invest back in this, or I knew I had a gold star on me for somebody that exited their business. So I'd have the ability to do a cold outreach and say, hey, the founders of Rocket Money, right, sold for over $1 billion. The three brothers there. I was like, hey, here's who I am. Here's what I've done. I'd love to get on a call and just learn from you. And they respond. And so and that's a real example. And I knew that access would come now that I had the accreditation at this point for it. So that's what I was most excited for, was the I knew the access I was going to be able to reach once I had that kind of that thing on my resume now. So that's what I get most excited for. And yeah, ultimately, I wish I had a more fun, sexy answer as far as but yes or did this or anything like that. But no, I very proudly just want to. It was a I was very much had been methodical about how that moment was going to feel, and I approached it with, I think, a lot of intentionality. I think is the best way to say it.
I love that. That's very mature answer. That's actually Eric Spofford's thinking. I think he had $150 million exit, and he very similar. He the money hit, and he just went on with his day. And I think what is he thought about like you did, and he had his whole visualization and what he was going to do. And he already pre-planned it. And it wasn't, he thought he was going to, have this crazy moment where he was going to be like jumping off for joy and doing this and that. And it just didn't happen, and it's just funny because it's the opposite. What everyone thinks you're going to have a crazy party, rent out Omni or rent out some club and do this crazy stuff. But I guess it comes down to, it comes down to habits, right? If you do that, then guess what? Then you're gonna drop 100 grand, 200, 500 or whatever. Then the next time you do it, it's like, when's enough, right? So
Yeah.
I think it comes down to that habit, which is great.
Exactly. Also, I'll say I loved my business when I sold it. I think that the best time to sell a business is when you don't need to. Like I remember, it sounds funny in hindsight because I did just divine timing, not by my own doing, by God's timing. On like the deal got announced, interest rates rose 2 weeks later. The deal funded a week later, like that. Like had that been a year later, I don't know. All my top customers, their stock price went down 90+%. My company wasn't any different. The assets that went over, but the marketplace had changed dramatically. And that's not because I'm smart or foresaw that. That's just God's blessing. And Yeah. So anyway, yeah, that intentionality, I think, is recognizing to be humble through it as well too, and realize like so much of your success is out of not something you chose. Like if you were born in the United States of America, uh, what an incredible advantage you have over the rest of the world. And you didn't choose that. And my parents, my father's a retired police officer. My mom worked in my elementary school. They put four kids through private Catholic education. One, to grow my spiritual muscle. Two, it was, Arizona doesn't have the best public school education. And my friend's parents we were probably, I'm not going to claim poverty, but we were definitely on the lower end of the scale of people at that school. So the parents I got to spend time with, I got to learn lessons from that my dad would have never been able to teach me with his, whether it's financial acumen or things like that, but he put me in the right room. I didn't choose that either. So just that, having that humbleness around your success, and grace, by the way, around failures. There's a lot out of our control that we have to, again, have grace for when things go wrong, and realize it's not totally your fault, and we have to have humility when things go right to say that's not totally your doing either. So I think that played a big part in it too.
I feel like the people in the industry need to hear this, not just this industry, any industry, because it's been a rough few years. I feel like you exited right like really near the top, and after that, like you said, the stock prices went down. All these verticals had issues, and a lot of people got wiped out. They're not in it anymore. But I also think that happens, right? It's part of the cycle of life, and it's how you adapt to it. What do you do afterwards? And as long as you do the right thing, you have the right habits, you can still come out successful. So that's why I wanted to have you on. I think this has been an amazing interview. We're not done yet, but I really appreciate that. I think that they needed to hear that.
Of course, brother.
Cool. So let's talk about now, right? And you mentioned, and I think this is very important. It's funny. I left my office. I'm going to be in the rapid planning method. RPM. Tony Robbins has a virtual event next week. Our mutual friend Nick Bufano told me about it, and I need this really badly right now. Is
Sure.
my time management because I'm juggling so many things, and I have my EA. She's going to be doing it as well. The RPM method. I can't wait to do that, and that's you have to pay money to do that. Obviously, I've been in a lot of Tony Robbins events. You're pretty much at all of them. You've been part of the Platinum Group, but I do agree with what you said. Coaching is so important. It collapses time frames for you. You have access to an expert who's already done this for you. So let's talk about that and what you're currently doing.
Oh yeah, great question. Thanks. Yeah, so I'm doing a lot of fractional CMO work for companies, which is just some of the most purposeful thing I could be doing. So basically, I had my liquidity event. And I had a new business, which I wasn't that I mentioned, which is basically managing those the liquid assets. So I think we forget someone asked me like, I'm going to make up a round number. I can't remember when it was, but like, they're like, okay, tell me about your like net worth. And I was like, okay, I don't even know when this was, $1 million. They're like, okay. And it's in the stock market or some of it's in treasuries or, okay, great. They're like, I'm like, yeah, I'm pretty diversified. He's like, no, you're not. 99% of your net worth is in one asset. I would never do that. I'm in the S&P 500. I would never just buy individual stocks. I know that all the data around that. They go, no, your private business, 99% of your net worth is locked up in your private business. And I was like, oh, so my asset allocation I thought was nice, diversified. It was actually very concentrated in my private business, which was how much that business was worth. So when I liquidated that, essentially that became realized cash at that point. And then I had a new skill I needed to learn, which was just like there's a great book, The E-Myth, where the baker has to learn how to become a manager, has to learn a business owner, and there's learnings along the way. I was very intentional to realize that I needed to learn how to become a professional investor. So I chased an earnout for the company that bought me for about a year and a half, 2-ish years. And then, along that journey, was learning how to become a professional investor. And, the reason for me sharing that is I advise everybody listening to realize you can have a money machine as well too, which is the cash you've accumulated, make that money work for you as well too. So you really have two businesses. You have your operating one and then that one. So I'm blessed enough that business now sustains my lifestyle to where I don't need to work ever again. So it became a opportunity to say what fills up my cup the most from a purpose perspective. And that was not an easy journey. I think Ernest Hemingway says it takes more courage to stare at a blank page of paper than it does to get in the ring with the lions. And I very much felt that. I had a blank sheet of paper, and there was a lot of self growth, a lot of prayer to be able to essentially land where I am today, which is I am coaching companies and I coach businesses. Most of them are doing at least $10 million a year in revenue, some over $100 million. And get to coach them one-on-one in weekly or bi-weekly sessions and help really guide the business to grow at a more profitable level or scale while not scaling back their time while still, increasing the profitability of the business or tracking towards an exit. So that's been really, really fun for me. And it's honestly, I feel like it's the biggest impact I've had in my career to date because I can go to like a business owner like yourself. Hopefully, there's still some experience share and coaching, and then you can go apply that to your team of 50, whatever it is, your customers of 20, and then their customers of 50,000, right? Like, I just feel like my impact is magnified at such a high level while working with just a handful of business leaders. So it's some of the most purposeful work I've done, most impactful work, and it's fun. Like one of my coaching clients just won the Ernst & Young Entrepreneur of the Year,
Wow.
and I was like, I got just as excited about that as I did when any of my own personal accolades. And it was like, wow, this is a really, I'm getting the goosebumps saying it. Like, what a, God, what a blessing it is for me to serve people like that. Like, it's just so cool. So anyway, yeah, I'm to answer your question directly. I'm coaching businesses as a fractional CMO, or a board, board of directors advisory role for companies to scale and grow.
I love it. And one thing I want to say is that you just dropped a ton of great information, right? Tell me so many nuggets on this interview, and I just want it's amazing, right? Someone who's watches, I'd watch this 2 or 3. I'm going to watch this numerous times. You give me great ideas. We go to With that being said, like we've gone to like Tony Robbins, you go to these events. I feel like when you go to these events, you get this like almost like a sugar high. Like yeah, you can kill everything, to dominate. But then you get back to the real world. You go back to your kids. You go back to this, and they're like it wears off. That 2, 3, 4 days, 5 days, a week from now, 2 weeks from now. So really, you can have all the ideas in the world, but it comes down to execution and accountability. And I think that's the key here. Is that I would imagine, and with your coaching program, you hold them accountable, so they actually execute on what you've teaching them. Is that correct?
That's exactly right. So strategically, of course, being able to download, and then the accountability aspect, of course, is huge as well too. Although, including myself, no one wants to hear that. You want to hear the
Yeah.
how to lift heavier weights. Not that the trainer's there for accountability, which is of course a big part of it. And then also for me, like I'm blessed enough to put a filter around who I want to work with. So I have to have some kind of moral alignment. So for me, like I say like faith-based entrepreneurs doesn't mean you need to sell Bibles, and doesn't mean you need to be Christian like myself, but believing in a higher power. I've found there's moral alignment there for wanting to serve the community, serve their customers, their employees, their family, and a higher power. So that's the only other filter I didn't mention, that around coaching clients that I coach. So, and again, these are they're not selling Bibles. They're most of them have a lead generation or e-commerce for everyday products or services. But yeah, that's another filter that I'm blessed to be able to put on for who I want to work with. Somebody who's got that same moral alignment as myself. So
In terms of filter criteria, right? Obviously, our audience is pretty diverse, and most of them come from the digital marketing community, which I think that again, anytime you get to work one on one with an expert that's done it, that's been through the ups and downs, that gets it all from all that different perspective, it goes such a long way. So, is it $10 million the minimum annual revenue for you to work with someone?
for one-on-one coaching, it's at least 10 million in revenue. And then for group coaching can be, sub 10 million, but yeah, 10, and then a few of my clients are doing over $100 million in revenue. But yeah, it's for one-on-one coaching, and just because the return is there, meaning there's a financial commitment for coaching, and I want to make sure that that the customers, or the client, sees their value in the return. And usually you need a business of bigger scale in order to justify the investment, if that makes sense. So and by the way, I get to service companies that are doing big things in a big way to do it in even a bigger way. So the back to that purpose, like my level of impact magnification grows with a $10 million business versus a business doing 500,000 in revenue or something like that. So they've got more team members, more customers. So yeah.
And I'm a big believer in it. I know that we know each other in the industry for a while. We went mutual friend of ours, and then Nick Buffalo was in platinum group with you with Tony Robbins, and I've seen it myself. When you invest in yourself, that's the best investment you can make, right? You put money in it. Listen, the stuff does not is not cheap, but it's not them the numbers. Like, what do you get out? What's your ROI? What are those connections that you make? I was in you mentioned Tiger, was it Tiger 20? What's the name of the group?
Tiger 21. It's a very odd name. I know.
Tiger 21. I want to connect you with someone. I flew first class to Dubai for Philly World, and I met this really cool guy. The guy does something with luxury cars, parking them, maintaining them, and killing it, man. He's in that group as well. I want to connect you with him, but like the mindset was so amazing. How generous he was, and that's one thing I think everyone that knows you, and then people that don't know you, that get introduced to you. You're such a generous person, and I find that that he was extremely generous and willing to share and help out. But listen, whatever you got to do to accelerate time frames and connect to people that have been there before, it just goes a long way. So I really recommend that our audience, contact you regarding that. We'll put a link here for them to contact you and reach out. And is there anything else that we didn't touch upon here? Because there was so much that you said. I mean, I think that this was an amazing interview. I'm glad we got to do it.
Yeah, I just think especially working with companies that are not affiliate marketers, you realize the lifeblood of any organization is the sales and marketing. And most, if not everybody listening to this podcast in your community is very good at sales and marketing. And my vision is that the next billion-dollar company unicorns are built out of affiliate marketers because they understand sales and marketing better than anybody else. So my call to you as an affiliate marketer is that you're called for more. You have a deep skill in a category that's the most important, in my opinion, of any organization, any product, any service, is being masterful at sales and marketing. And everybody listening here is masterful at that. So my call to grow for everybody on here is you're made for more. You're made to grow a bigger business. You're made to maybe one day step outside of the affiliate space or do bigger things than you're doing today. So that's the only last thing I'll say is I don't think we realize what a tremendous skill everybody in this affiliate marketing space has.
This is amazing. I'm sure everyone's gonna get great knowledge out of it. Me, myself, I will. I'll have my team listen to this. We'll start implementing this stuff because again, it's not about the idea, it's about execution, right? That's what makes stuff happen.
I love
Definitely, man. I love you, man. So glad you got to make it. We'll put a link to all your credentials here. Guys, hit them up. Success leaves clues. Anthony and Sandrea. Let's fucking go.
Get ready to level your shit up with the LFG show. We travel the globe to bring you heavy hitters from all walks of life. We've been talking some serious business, from the best digital marketers, government contracting experts, to top athletic and celebrity doctors. We've got it all covered. We're talking to guys who've cashed in for billions with a B. And the best thing is, we're just getting started. So hold on tight. We're about to crank it up a notch. Get ready for next level networking and masterminds within the LFG community. Scared money don't make no money or honey. Hit the subscribe button, drop a like, leave a comment, and let's fucking go.